My name is Mike Carter. A few weeks back, my wife, Emily, told me, the door is right there, after spending an evening flirting. What happened next proved I made the right call. It started at the company barbecue that Saturday. For weeks, Emily had been different, distant, glued to her phone, and short with me. At the barbecue, it all snapped into focus. We stepped into the backyard, and, within minutes, she drifted straight to a guy from her department, a smooth talker named Tyler Bennett. I stood with 2 drinks in my hands while she laughed at his jokes, brushed his arm when she spoke, and leaned in close when he whispered. Her body language said available, not married. After about an hour of that show, I walked over. Ready for that drink? I asked, handing her the glass so it was clear I was standing right there. She barely looked at me. Oh, this is my husband, she said, like I was a distant cousin she was obliged to acknowledge, then turned right back to Tyler. Tyler gave me a limp handshake and a smirk. Your wife has been telling me about her new project, he said. Sounds fascinating. Which project? I asked. I was honestly curious. Emily had not mentioned anything new at home. The marketing campaign for the wellness retreat. Emily jumped in. I told you about it last week. She had not. I let it slide and tried to join in. Each time I spoke, she cut me off or steered the topic back to Tyler. I commented on the music. She rolled her eyes. I suggested we check on food. She said, we just got here. Another coworker walked up. Emily introduced Tyler by name, listed his achievements, and even mentioned his recent promotion. Then she waved a hand toward me and said, and this is my husband. Not my name. Not what I do. Just my husband. Like I was an accessory. I excused myself and crossed the yard. Maybe I was being sensitive. Maybe she was simply being social. 30 minutes later, nothing had changed. Same laughter. Same hand on his arm. Same act from a woman who might as well have left her wedding ring at home. I decided to test the temperature. I came back and said, I am thinking about heading out soon. I have that early morning thing tomorrow. She stared at me like I had suggested we burn down our house. We just got here. Why do you not go get another drink or talk to someone else? I would rather talk to my wife, I said, keeping my voice steady. The smile fell off her face. She squared up, crossed her arms, and said, look, I am having a conversation. If you are not comfortable with me being social, maybe you should ask yourself why that is. Even Tyler shifted on his feet. He could feel the air turning. I am fine with you being social, I said. I am not fine with you flirting. Silence hit like a cymbal crash. She lifted her chin and delivered the line that changed everything. I am not flirting. I am being friendly. And if you cannot handle that, the door is right there. She gestured toward the gate with a little smirk, certain I would back down, apologize, maybe even beg. A few nearby conversations died off as people started listening. I looked at the gate. I looked at her. Then I looked back at the gate. You know what? You are absolutely right. I pulled out my keys and started walking. Behind me she called, wait, where are you going? I did not stop. I did not turn around. I walked straight out the gate she had pointed to, got in my car, and drove away. In the rearview mirror, I saw her standing there with her mouth open, while Tyler looked like he wished he were anywhere else. The drive home was the calmest my head had felt in months. She thought I would never actually leave. She called my bluff, except it was not a bluff. For the first time in weeks, I felt in control of my own life. My phone started buzzing before I reached the house. One text, then another. By the time I pulled into our driveway, the screen looked like a Christmas tree. I did not check it. Not yet. I went inside, grabbed a cold beer, and sat on the couch. The house was quiet and steady, like my thoughts finally had room to breathe. After 20 minutes, I picked up the phone. 12 messages. All from Emily. What was that about? You cannot just leave me here. Everyone is asking where you went. This is so embarrassing. Answer your phone. I am getting a ride home with someone else. We need to talk. The last few messages sounded less angry and more afraid. It was sinking in that I had actually left her at a company event and that she had to explain why her husband had disappeared. I still did not respond. An hour later, her car pulled in. A friend must have driven her. The front door slammed hard enough to rattle the frame, and Emily stormed into the living room. What is wrong with you? She shouted. I took a slow sip and met her eyes. Nothing is wrong with me, I said. You told me the door was right there. I used it. That is not what I meant, and you know it. Emily snapped. Really? I said, because it sounded pretty clear. You were uncomfortable with me standing there, so you pointed to the exit. I took you at your word. She started pacing, hands slicing the air. You humiliated me in front of my coworkers. Everyone kept asking where you went. I had to say you felt sick. Why not tell the truth? I asked. Tell them you told me to leave. Because that makes me look like a terrible wife, she said. I almost laughed. And spending the afternoon glued to Tyler while ignoring me makes you look like what, exactly? I was not flirting, she said. You were just insecure. I was networking, building professional relationships. Something you might understand if you actually cared about moving up. There it was, the little jab meant to shrink me. 3 months ago, it might have worked. Tonight it just made things clearer. Networking, I repeated. Is that what we are calling it now? Yes, she said. And if you cannot handle me talking to male colleagues without getting jealous, maybe you need therapy. I stood and walked to the kitchen. She followed close behind, still lecturing me about my supposed insecurities and how I was holding back her career. I opened the refrigerator, took my time grabbing another beer, and let her words run out of steam. Are you even listening? She snapped. I am, I said. You are saying that touching another man's arm, laughing at everything he says, and introducing me as my husband is professional networking. I did not introduce you as just my husband, she said. What is my name? I asked. What do you mean? When you introduced me tonight, I said, did you say my name? Her mouth opened, then closed. Silence stretched. You introduced Tyler by name, I said. You bragged about his promotion and listed his wins. Me? I was my husband. Some random guy you dragged along. That is not. I did not mean it like that, she said. And when I tried to be part of the conversation, you cut me off. When I suggested we check on food, you waved me off. When I said I wanted to talk with my wife, you told me to go talk to someone else. Her cheeks flushed. You are twisting everything. Am I? I asked. Because from where I stood, it looked like you were embarrassed by me. Like you wished I was not there. That is ridiculous, she said. Is it? I asked. When I called out your behavior, you literally pointed me to the gate. She went quiet, eyes working like she was searching for a way to make it my fault. You know your problem? She said finally. You do not trust me. A healthy marriage needs trust. You are right, I said. It does. But trust is earned, not demanded. So you do not trust me? She asked. I held her gaze. Should I? The question hung in the air like smoke. For the first time that night, she did not have a quick comeback. How dare you, she whispered. How dare I what? I asked. Ask a reasonable question after you spent the night acting like you were single? I was not acting single. Then what would you call it? I would call it being a normal person who can talk without her husband breathing down her neck. Nobody was breathing down your neck, I said. I was trying to talk with my wife. You were being controlling. I was being your husband, I said. She glared at me with real venom. Maybe I do not want a husband who acts like that. The words hit the room like a brick. We stared at each other, and something clicked into place for me. She had just told the truth. Good to know, I said quietly. I walked upstairs, leaving her in the kitchen with her mouth open. I sat on the edge of the bed and started taking off my shoes. 10 minutes later, I heard her on the stairs, slow, careful steps, planning her next move. She eased the door open. The anger was gone, replaced by an expression that looked a lot like regret. I had seen that mask before. Baby, she said softly, closing the door behind her. I am sorry. I did not mean what I said downstairs. I did not look up. Which part did you not mean? All of it, she said. I was angry. I do not think clearly when I am upset. So you do want a husband who acts like that? I asked. She sat beside me and reached for my hand. I want you. I want us. I do not know what came over me tonight. What came over you was 3 hours of flirting with another man, I said, pulling my hand away and standing up. It was not flirting, she said. Her face tightened for a second before she smoothed it over. I can see how it might have looked that way to you, but it was not, right? Just like telling you to leave was not really telling you to leave. She stepped closer. I was embarrassed. You put me in a tough spot in front of my coworkers. I put you in a tough spot by existing, I said, turning to face her, by showing I was uncomfortable, by not pretending to be blind. You ignored me all night. When I tried to join in, you shut me down. When I asked for a proper introduction, you brushed it off. When I told you I was not okay with the way you were acting, you told me to go. She paused, then tried a new angle. You are right. I should have been more considerate. But you have to understand that networking matters for my career. I cannot walk on eggshells about how every interaction might look to you. No one is asking you to walk on eggshells, I said. I am asking you not to flirt with other men. I was not flirting, she repeated. You were touching him, laughing at every line, leaning in so close he could whisper in your ear, and you stood with your back to me for almost 2 hours, I said. That is just how I am with people, Emily shot back. I am naturally friendly. Are you that friendly with women? I asked. She paused. What do you mean? Do you put your hand on a woman colleague's arm the way you did his? Do you laugh that hard at their jokes? Do you lean in that close when they speak? Another pause. Longer this time. That is different, she said. How? I asked. It just is. I walked to the dresser and started getting ready for bed. You know what? You are right, I said. It is different. And that is exactly the issue. She followed, her voice climbing. So what are you saying? That I cannot talk to men? That I need your permission to have a conversation? I am saying that when you are married, you do not act single, I said. It is really that simple. I was not acting single, she said. Then what would you call it? I asked. She did not answer. I pulled a t-shirt from the drawer and changed. She watched me, wheels turning behind her eyes. The arguments were running dry, and panic was starting to show. Look, she said, softer now. Maybe I got carried away. Maybe I was a little too friendly, but that does not mean anything. You are the one I married. You are the one I came home to. You came home to yell at me for leaving a party where you told me to leave, I said. I was angry, she said. I said things I did not mean. Did you mean it when you said maybe you do not want a husband who acts like me? I asked. She went quiet for a long moment. I was upset, she said. That is not an answer. No, she said. I did not mean it. Are you sure? I asked. Because you sounded pretty convinced at the time. She moved closer and reached for my hand. I am sure. I love you. I married you. I want to work this out. I stepped back. Working it out takes owning what you did, I said. And you will not do that. I just did, she insisted. No, I said. You said maybe you got carried away. Maybe you were too friendly. That is not the same as admitting you were flirting and then telling me to leave when I called you on it. Her cheeks reddened. Fine, she said. Maybe I was flirting a little. But it did not mean anything. It meant something to me, I said. Well, maybe you are being too sensitive, she snapped. There it was again, the real voice behind the nice words. I was not surprised. You know what? I said evenly. Maybe I am too sensitive. Maybe most husbands would be fine with their wives acting like that. Maybe most husbands would not mind being dismissed and disrespected all night. Exactly, she said. But I am not most husbands, I said. If you want a husband who does not care about that kind of thing, then you married the wrong man. Her eyes widened. I watched the moment it clicked. She had called her behavior normal, which meant the problem, to her, was me. I did not mean it like that, she said quickly. Yes, you did, I said. And that tells me everything I need to know. I walked past her toward the bathroom. I am taking a shower. When I get out, I do not want to keep having the same argument. We cannot just stop talking about this, she said. We are not talking, I said. You are justifying it, and I am explaining why it is wrong. That is not a conversation. I closed the door and turned on the water. Through the wood I could hear her pacing. 20 minutes later I came out. She sat on the edge of the bed, shoulders slumped. What happens now? She asked quietly. I looked at her for a while. Now you decide what kind of wife you want to be, I said, and I decide what kind of husband I am willing to be. What does that even mean? She asked. It means things are going to be different around here, I said. I got into bed and turned off the light. She sat in the dark for a while, then lay down beside me. She did not say another word, and neither did I. In the morning, I woke to an empty space next to me. Emily was already downstairs. I could hear her voice carrying through the house, that soft, concerned tone she uses when she wants sympathy. I do not know what has gotten into him, she said. He has been so controlling and jealous. Last night he made a huge scene just because I was talking to a colleague. I dressed quietly and stood at the top of the stairs, listening. She was on the phone with her sister. No, I was not flirting, she said. You know me, I am just friendly. But he acted like I was throwing myself at the guy. It was so embarrassing. I walked down. As soon as she saw me, her voice dropped. Listen, I have to go, she said into the phone. But yes, I think he might need professional help. She ended the call as I stepped into the kitchen. Good morning, she said, too bright. I made coffee. Thanks, I said. I poured a cup and sat at the table. She hovered, fidgeting with the edge of a napkin. So, I was thinking, she began. Maybe we should see a marriage counselor. Work through some of these trust issues. Trust issues, I said. Well, your trust issues, she added quickly. I think it would be good for you to talk to someone about why you get so jealous when I am just being social. I almost laughed. You want me to go to therapy because you flirted with another man and told me to leave? I said. I want us to work on our communication, she said. Last night got out of hand because we were not hearing each other. I heard you, I said. You said the door was right there. Her phone buzzed. She glanced at the screen and brightened. Oh, it is my mother. She is worried about us. You called your mother? I asked. I needed someone to talk to, she said. You were not exactly communicative last night. Emily answered before I could get a word in. Hi, Mom. No, we are fine. We're just working through some things. I could hear her mother on the other end, fast and worried. Emily walked into the living room, but snippets still drifted back. He has been really controlling lately. No, I did not do anything wrong. I was just talking to a coworker. I do not know why he is being so insecure. I finished my coffee and headed for the door. As I passed the couch, Emily covered the phone. Where are you going? To work on some things in the garage, I said. We need to talk about this, she said. No, we do not, I said. You are handling it just fine by calling everyone you know to tell them how unreasonable I am. Outside, I started rearranging tools that did not need rearranging. It gave me room to think. She was playing the victim, painting me as the jealous, controlling husband. It was textbook. Shift the blame. Make the story about my reaction instead of her behavior. My phone rang. Unknown number. Hello. Hey, it is Dave from the barbecue, the voice said. Dave is Emily's brother-in-law, married to her sister. He is a decent guy, but family drama sways him. What is up, Dave? I asked. Look, I do not want to get in the middle, he said. But Emily called my wife. She was pretty upset. She said you two had a fight. We disagreed about her talking to a guy from work, I said. About her flirting with a guy from work. Then she told me to leave when I called it out. There was a pause. She said you got jealous because she was networking, he said. Is that what she called it? Yeah, he said. Look, man, I know she can be outgoing, but she has always been like that. It does not mean anything. It means something to me, I said. I get it, Dave said, but maybe cut her some slack. She is really upset. I almost hung up. Dave, let me ask you something. If your wife ignored you for 3 hours at a party, flirted with another man, and then told you the door was right there when you complained, what would you do? Another pause. Longer this time. I do not know. That is different. How is it different? I asked. Because she is just friendly, right? So when she touches other men, ignores her husband, and tells him to leave, that is just being friendly. But if your wife did that, it would be a problem. I am not saying that, he said. Yes, you are, I said. You are saying her behavior is acceptable because that is how she is. That is not how marriage works. Look, I am trying to help, he said. Then help by staying out of it, I said. This is between me and my wife. I ended the call and went back to the pegboard. 20 minutes later, my phone rang again. This time the caller ID showed Emily's father. We need to talk, he said without warming up. About what? I asked. About how you are treating my daughter. I set down the wrench. How am I treating your daughter? She called this morning, crying, he said. She said you embarrassed her in front of her co-workers, and now you are giving her the silent treatment. I am not giving her the silent treatment, I said. I am just not interested in listening to her explain why flirting with other men is acceptable. Flirting, he said. She was being professional, making connections. By touching another man and ignoring her husband all night? I asked. You are being dramatic, he said. She has always been social. That is her personality. Her personality is to disrespect her vows? I asked. Her personality is friendly and outgoing, he said. If you cannot handle that, maybe you married the wrong woman. The words hit the mark, not because they hurt, but because they revealed the truth. Her family saw her behavior as normal and me as the problem. You know what? I said evenly. Maybe I did marry the wrong woman. The line went quiet. What is that supposed to mean? He asked. It means I thought I married someone who respected me and our marriage, I said. I was wrong. Now you listen, he started. No, you listen, I said. Your daughter told me the door was right there when I objected to her flirting. I used it. Now everyone is angry at me for doing what she told me to do. She did not mean for you to actually leave, he said. Then she should not have said it, I replied. I hung up and turned the phone off. The garage felt calm. No more calls from people trying to convince me that my wife's behavior was my fault. But I knew this was the opening round. She had rallied her support network, and they had already chosen a side. The real question was how far she would go to dodge responsibility. That evening, when I came back inside, she sat at the kitchen table with a stack of papers. My stomach lurched, thinking legal documents. Up close, I saw what they were: printouts about marriage counseling, lists of therapists, and articles about jealousy in relationships. She had been busy. I made some calls, Emily said without looking up. I found 3 therapists who specialize in trust issues and controlling behavior. Controlling behavior, I said. Do not start, she snapped. I am trying to save our marriage. I sat across from her. By diagnosing me with problems I do not have. I asked. You embarrassed me in front of my coworkers, she said. You stormed out of a social event. Now you are not talking to me. Those are problems. I used the door you pointed me toward, I said. How is that a problem? She slammed her hand on the table. Stop saying that. You know it is not what I meant. Then what did you mean? I asked. I meant you were being unreasonable, she said. So you told your unreasonable husband to leave? I said. I was frustrated, and I was disrespected, but somehow your feelings matter more than mine. She sat back, jaw tight, eyes burning. The papers lay between us like a border. For the first time all day, the room was quiet. She lifted one of the printouts. This article says excessive jealousy often comes from insecurity and childhood trust issues. Did you find any articles about wives who flirt with other men? I asked. I was not flirting, she said. Right, I said. You were networking. She started pacing again. This is exactly what I mean. You are being sarcastic and dismissive instead of addressing the real problem. What is the real problem? I asked. Your inability to trust me, she said. Should I trust you? I asked. Yes, she said. Even after last night. You spent nearly 3 hours acting like you were single and told me to leave when I objected. Yes, she said. Because I know what my intentions were. I leaned back in my chair. Your intentions do not matter to me anymore, I said. Your actions do. That is not how marriage works, she said. Actually, that is exactly how marriage works, I said. You do not get to behave however you want, and then tell me to ignore it because you did not mean anything by it. She stopped, squared her shoulders, and faced me. Fine. You want the hard way? Here it is. Either you agree to counseling and work on your trust issues, or I am done. You are done, I repeated. I am finished with the accusations, the jealousy, the controlling behavior, she said. I am finished walking on eggshells because you cannot handle me being social. So you are threatening to leave? I said. I am telling you what I need for this marriage to function, she said. I stood and walked to the counter. And what I need is a wife who does not flirt with other men and then tell me to leave when I object. That is not what happened, she said. That is exactly what happened, I said. But since you cannot admit it, we are stuck. She folded her arms. So what are you saying? I am saying you are right, I said. One of us needs to go. Her face went pale. What? You just said you were done, I said. You said you need me to change who I am for this to work. I am not changing. I am not going to therapy to fix problems I do not have, and I am not going to pretend your behavior was acceptable. You cannot be serious, she said. I am completely serious, I said. If you want a husband who does not care when you flirt with other men, you can go find him. That man is not me. You were talking about divorce, she whispered. You are the one who said you were done, I said. I am agreeing. I did not mean it, she said. I was trying to get you to be reasonable. Reasonable, I said. Is it reasonable to demand that I ignore my wife's inappropriate behavior? It was not inappropriate, she said. Then we absolutely need to get divorced, I said. The room went quiet. She looked like I had slapped her. You cannot be serious, she said again. Why not? I asked. You do not respect me. You do not believe what you did was wrong. You spent all day calling anyone who would listen to tell them how terrible I am. You are threatening to leave unless I go to therapy for problems you invented. Why should we stay married? Because I love you, she said. Do you? I asked. Yesterday you told me maybe you do not want a husband who acts like me. Today you are threatening to leave unless I change. Tomorrow it will be something else. That is a pattern. She began to cry. You are going to throw away 5 years of marriage over one stupid fight. I am not throwing anything away, I said. You did that when you chose to flirt with another man instead of being a partner to me. I made a mistake, she said. No, I said. You made a choice. And when I called you out, you made another choice. You told me to leave. I did not think you would actually go, she said. That is the problem, I said. You assumed you could treat me any way you wanted, and I would never have the backbone to walk out. She sobbed harder. Please do not do this. We can fix it. I will do better. Will you? I asked. Or will you just get better at hiding it? I will not flirt, she said. You still will not admit you were flirting in the first place, I said. Fine, she snapped. I was flirting. Are you happy now? No, I said. I am disappointed. And I am done. I headed for the stairs. Behind me, she cried even harder. Where are you going? To pack a bag, I said. I will stay somewhere else while we sort out the details. What details? She asked. Divorce details, I said. You cannot just leave, she said. You told me the door was right there, I said. I am still using it. I went upstairs and left her crying in the kitchen. I spent the next 3 days at my brother's place. Emily called nonstop, sent texts every few hours, and filled my voicemail with messages that swung from anger to desperation to bargaining. This is insane. You are overreacting. Please come home. We can work this out. I spoke to an attorney. Do you know how much this will cost us? I am willing to go to counseling. We can both work on our issues. I did not respond. On Thursday, my assistant buzzed me at work. Your wife is here, she said. She says it is urgent. I sighed. Send her in. Emily walked in looking like she had not slept in days, dark circles under her eyes, hair yanked into a messy ponytail. Emily dropped into the chair across from my desk without waiting to be invited. We need to talk, she said. We already have, I answered. You threatened to walk unless I went to therapy for problems you invented. I took you at your word. I was not bluffing, she said. I was desperate. You were not hearing me. I heard every word. I said. You just did not like my answers. She leaned forward, eyes locked on mine. I know I messed up. I know I handled things badly. But tearing up our marriage over one night is insane. This is not about one night, I said. It is about who you have been and who you expect me to be. I do not follow, she said. You want a husband who shrugs when his wife flirts with other men? I said. Who stays quiet while she acts single at work events? Who apologizes after she points him to the door? That is not. That is exactly it, I said. And your whole family agrees. To them, I am the problem. They are just protective, she said softly. Who is protective of me? I asked. Who called to ask how I am? Who cared that I was disrespected? She said nothing. Right, I said. No one. Because everyone decided your behavior was normal and my reaction was extreme. Maybe you did go too far, she said. Walking out like that. Leaving when someone tells me to leave is extreme? I asked. I knew exactly what you meant. You meant I should keep my mouth shut and take whatever attention you felt like giving me. That is not true, she said. Is it not? I asked. When was the last time you apologized without making excuses? When was the last time you owned hurting me without shifting the blame back onto me? Her mouth opened and closed. Nothing came out. I will wait, I said. I do not know, she whispered. I do, I said. Never. Because you do not think you do anything wrong. You think everyone else is too sensitive. She swallowed. What do you want from me? Nothing, I said. I do not want anything from you anymore. Tears welled. Please do not say that. I love you. I know I messed up, but I love you. Love is not enough, I said. Respect matters. Trust matters. And you do not respect me. I do respect you, she said. You flirted with another man for nearly 3 hours while I watched, I said. You brushed me off when I tried to join the conversation. You told me to leave when I objected. You spent the next day calling everyone to say I was unreasonable. Then you threatened to leave unless I went to therapy for issues you made up. Which part of that looks like respect? I was scared, she said. I was trying to save us. By threatening to end it, I said. By trying to fix problems you created. We both played a part, she said. We both made it worse. How did I contribute to you flirting with another man? I asked. You did not, she said quietly. But you contributed to how bad it got after. I almost laughed. So you flirt, tell me to leave, and now my reaction is the issue. I am not blaming you, she said. I am saying we both could have handled it better. No, I said. You could have handled it better. I handled it exactly right. So that is it, she asked. You are simply done? I am done pretending this is my fault, I said. I am done pretending your behavior was acceptable. I am done being married to someone who thinks I should be grateful for whatever crumbs of respect she decides to toss my way. That is not how I see you, she said. That is exactly how you see me, I said. You act like I should be thankful you chose me, even when you treat me like you did not. She cried harder. I never meant to make you feel that way. But you did, I said. And when I told you how it felt, you pointed to the door. I was angry, she said. I was hurt. And my feelings did not matter then, I said. They do not seem to matter now either. They do matter, she said quickly. If they did not matter, I would not be here. If they mattered, I said, you would have apologized on the spot. You would have been horrified at how you treated me. Instead, you spent 3 days convincing everyone that I am the problem. She stood up, wiping her eyes. So what happens now? Now we get divorced, I said. You find someone who does not mind the flirting. I find someone who actually wants to be married to me. I want to be married to you, she said. No, I said. You want to be married to a version of me who never objects to anything you do. That is not who I am. She reached the door, then turned back. I am not signing anything. You do not have to, I said. I will file, and you will be served. You can fight it if you want, but it will not change the outcome. This is really what you want, she asked. What I wanted was a wife who respected me, I said. What I got was someone who told me the door was right there when I asked for basic consideration. I am sorry I said that, she whispered. I am not, I said. It showed me exactly who you are and what you think of me. She left without another word. 2 weeks later, she signed. In the end, she did not want to fight. She wanted to move on to someone who would not push back when she acted single. And I hope she finds him, because that man will never be me.